Nvidia came out absolutely swinging yesterday, going crazy, seeing a big move in that market. Nvidia topping estimates for sales and absolutely rallying to a new all-time high, which is pretty crazy. Nvidia has gone nuts, so to speak. It's been pretty crazy. Huge rally, new all-time high. This has been, of course, the breakaway stock of the year. But I want to not just talk about Nvidia here. I want to talk about Nvidia as well as a new upcoming competitor to Nvidia, which is promising to be the biggest IPO of 2023, which is ARM. More on that in a minute. But Nvidia topped estimates and says sales will jump by 170% this quarter. What company does that? That's crazy, man. Of course, it's all driven by demand for AI chips. AI chips, the best kind of chips. Goes great with guacamole. This is pretty crazy stuff. Nvidia is the company that has been shocking the investing world this year, without a doubt. It's been pretty damn crazy to see how much interest Nvidia has been getting. And while we've seen an incredible rally for Nvidia as Wasteland Capital points here, flashback from a year ago, and Nvidia was the single largest short position among hedge funds, and semiconductors were the #1 shorted sector. No one had even heard of AI at that point. Or no, the VCs weren't talking about it. The hedge funds weren't talking about it. That's crazy, man. Also, Gergevin here pointing out, Kathy Wood's ARK Invest sold their Nvidia shares around like $150. Of course, the price now over $500. They owned 800,000 shares of Nvidia. Sold it near the bottom. Investors lost hundreds of millions in potential profits for those who were holding ARK Innovation or other ARK funds that had exposure to Nvidia. It just goes to show, and it's not to throw shade at ARK Invest or anyone else, just goes to show everybody's just trying to find their way through these markets. Everybody's susceptible to exhaustion, fatigue, panic selling, losing faith in assets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even the most famous money managers can fall victim to that. You know, the amount of people who bought Nvidia at, I don't know, $1 and held it till now are like almost nobody. Very, very few people. A lot of people now are chasing Nvidia, trying to get a good position in. It's over $1 trillion market cap now. And hey, look, AI is going to be massive, beyond belief. And microchips are super important. But you have to realize that nothing goes in a straight line up forever. At some point, people will cool off on it. People will say maybe there's better returns elsewhere, et cetera, et cetera. That's something to think about if you're chasing the Nvidia hype right now. But still, very impressive performance from Nvidia, without a doubt. Pretty crazy to see it putting in such strong gains here in the market. So I do love to see that. It is pretty impressive to watch that hype really cementing itself into a strong rally for an asset. Also, interestingly, not only is Nvidia far exceeding sales expectations, but they also approved a $25 billion share buyback, which it sounds like a lot, but then you remember they have an over $1 trillion market cap, so it's like 2.5% of the total market cap they're looking to buy back, or a little bit less even because the market cap's over $1 trillion now. But still pretty impressive number. That's going to definitely provide more wind in the sails for a further Nvidia price rally. Strong fundamentals, strong narrative, AI, all that stuff, doing a big stock buyback. Worth keeping an eye on. I don't own any Nvidia right now. Obviously, I wish I had bought Nvidia when it was cheaper, but I don't have any stock exposure right now to microchips, semiconductors, AI. I need to get some. It's on my list of things to do. Which brings us to SoftBank's ARM, which is filing for an IPO. Could be the biggest IPO of 2023. Could be the third biggest IPO ever. That's pretty crazy. ARM, of course, is a chip designer because, of course, it is very popular right now. That's from SoftBank. SoftBank, of course, has been running ARM for quite a while now, but if you look at the biggest IPOs, we had Alibaba at 25 billion, Meta at 16 billion, ARM potentially coming in at $10 billion. That's crazy. So what do you need to know about this upcoming IPO? Well, what is ARM? ARM is a semiconductor company that designs ARM-based processors. ARM is an acronym for Advanced RISC Machines. RISC stands for Reduced Instruction Set Computer. So a special kind of computer architecture created to simplify how computers receive the code and makes them run. The company mainly focuses on CPUs, although it's expanded into GPUs. ARM-based processors are unique in that they function as an integrated component of the computer's build itself rather than being a discrete relative to other hardware. This is called a system on a chip. Pretty interesting. As they say, the average person may not have heard of ARM, but if they've ever used a modern mobile device, then they've benefited directly from an ARM processor. They can be found in devices in big names like Qualcomm, Samsung, and Apple. But ARM also creates units for specialized functions outside of typical consumer products. Now, the 3-year earnings for ARM, look back, they have a compound annual growth rate of 16.2%, which is a nice number. Average gross margin of 95%. That's a margin, man. Holy cow. Holy cow. As they point out here, ARM's financials seem to be in a generally healthy place. That's crazy, man. How does ARM make money? An important distinction between ARM and other semiconductor companies is that ARM does not manufacture its products. Instead, ARM makes money by licensing its designs to other firms, which then take it upon themselves to build and implement these processors into their own products. This is critical in analyzing ARM for 2 reasons. First, this business model means that the margins and drivers will be quite different relative to peers in the semiconductor space. Second, a licensing approach like this also partially explains why the 2020 Nvidia deal fell through. Given how many major consumer products are driven by ARM processors, a combination of its CPUs with Nvidia's GPUs would have given the combined company tremendous oligopolistic power. For investors looking to develop comparable analysis, you can consider adding the typical semiconductor producers that most investors know: Intel, AMD, Nvidia, and TSMC, among many others. Of course, also backed by some of the biggest companies out there: Alphabet, Samsung, Apple, Microsoft, TSMC, Intel, Nvidia. Crazy stuff. I highlight the ARM IPO because once again, we see massive new IPO is coming out. The company's been around for a while, of course, but a new IPO coming to the market. And it's an interesting time to bring it out, an IPO to the market, because the market, I feel like this is going to be a big test of market sentiment, the ARM IPO coming out. How risk on is the market right now? Are they risk on enough to jump into a $10 billion IPO? Time will tell. Time will tell. But I feel like if that IPO does well, it could feed more risk appetite in the market. But it is a bit ballsy launching an IPO when the markets have been like this. Now they're launching it in a sector that has outperformed. Look at Nvidia. But we shall see, of course, how it plays out in the end. Still, though, interesting IPO. Interesting to see a big IPO like this coming in 2023, despite all the fear and stuff that has been around in the markets.